Hello, everyone. This is Karen Stanley, your host of the podcast, Envision, Accelerate, Excel. In our show, we seek to inform and to inspire by sharing stories of successful people who are willing to share the backstory. You always need to know the backstory. Also, in every episode, we talk about how this person visualized where they are today, how they implemented or accelerated their strategy, and finally, how they are now committed to excellence in their chosen path, and how that makes them excellent leaders in business, in nonprofit, and contributors to world uplift. Today, I'm happy to introduce our podcast guest, Ms. Laurie Dean Torrell. Laurie is the executive director of Just Buffalo Literary Center, yes, right here in Buffalo, New York. And she has had that job almost 20 years, or she'll tell us exactly how many. But the point is, she has a lot of experience in planning, implementing, and achieving excellence. And that's what we want to inspire everybody in our listening audience to do. So hopefully what you hear today will help you on your own journey. Laurie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and I suppose we should give a little bit of the backstory right up front, and I will let our listeners know that I was a board member of Just Buffalo Literary Center, and that is how I came to the privilege and pleasure of knowing Laurie and seeing her at work. Just a wonderful humanitarian, someone with a heart for the mission of the organization, and that is such a key success factor for our nonprofits. You have to have a heart for the mission. And it's not to say that leaders of for-profit jobs don't have a heart or that they aren't signed up for the mission, but this is particularly a key success factor for a nonprofit organization. So, Laurie, I want to start off, if you just give folks a little background on Just Buffalo Literary Center.
Well, Just Buffalo was formally founded in 1975, but we love to tell the story of the backstory on our organization is our founder, Deborah Ott, was a teenager in New York City, 14 years old, outside playing basketball with her friends, and she came inside to get a drink of water, and her family had one of those little black and white television sets on, and she heard a voice speaking, a poet. It was the poet Robert Creeley reading a poem, and it stopped her in her tracks. And she tells the story that she wasn't particularly literary. She wasn't, interested in poetry or anything, but his voice made her stop. And she thought, I am going to find this person, find out more about him, learn more about him. She went and took the subway to the library and took out his poetry books. And some years later, she came to Buffalo to study with him and work with him. He was at the University of Buffalo, and UB at that time had one of the top 3 English departments in the entire country. Robert Creeley and others were bringing in the most significant writers, of the era right here to Buffalo. And as they brought them to the university, Deborah Ott started bringing them out into the heart of the community. So Just Buffalo from the beginning was really about bringing writers and poets out into the community in fully valuing the work of writers and that they should be honored and respected and paid for their work, and that there should be that direct opportunity for the community to be interacting with writers and poets. And she went on to actually establish the organization as a nonprofit organization. And so from 1975 to a few years from now, we will celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2025, which is really remarkable for any organization to reach that point.
That is true. 50 years is a milestone, even 25. And the fact, Laurie, is that many businesses or nonprofits never even make it to 5 years. Now, one way that I see that Just Buffalo ensures longevity is that everyone around you really signs up for that mission. And you have some strong vision statements and mission statements. Would you share that with our audience?
Our mission is to create and strengthen communities through the literary arts. and we believe in the love of reading, the art of writing, and the power of the literary arts to transform individual lives and communities. I think our strategy really centers on identifying and retaining top talent, so the best talent we possibly can for our board, for our staff, for our key contractors. As a nonprofit, we can't always pay the very top wages necessarily, but we are looking for people that have a belief in the mission and would be excited to be part of such meaningful work. And so that's our key, because from that flows the ability to do really meaningful programs, really high quality programs that we hope can really make a difference in the community. We're always looking for where we can make our distinct impact and have the most impact for the good of our community.
And it shows up so much, Laurie. I have to say, one thing that I learned being on the board is the importance of partnerships. And this has been a key success factor for Just Buffalo Literary Center. So certainly part of your key success factors is, you said, attracting top talent who are deeply committed to the mission. And you also mentioned that the key words within your mission, I thought this is true. If anyone is interested in the love of reading and writing, that's a very clear and powerful part of what Just Buffalo does. And then you mentioned transform communities. And that, I think, takes it a step further from the individual who reads a book, who loves a book, who might write a book. But you're using the power of the literary arts to transform communities. And that's such a sharing spirit that I think that's also part of what attracts good partners.
You know, Just Buffalo works with roughly at least 35 to 50 key partner organizations on a regular basis. And over time, we've really learned how important, finding the right partners and finding the right ways to work together where it's really mutually beneficial for both organizations or all the organizations, especially as smaller or mid-sized cultural or nonprofit organizations. You really, really have to join with others. So, we can look all the way back to being pioneering the first significant administrative collaboration in the arts with SEPA and Big Orbit back 20 years ago, all the way to the partnerships that we use to present our education programs, to present our civil rights project, to present our author readings, to the fact that even our site where we're located at the corner of Washington and Mohawk is a partnership with the Book Art Center. We are the lead tenant on the second floor of that building, and we share a site. We've partnered with the library and numerous other partners to actually develop Buffalo's first and only reading park alongside Central Library. That's been an enormous undertaking. We developed a project called Lit City, or a vision for a project that would allow us to really bring into full visibility the fact that Buffalo is a world-class literary city. Many incredible writers have lived here, worked here, called Buffalo home. And so the first phase of that project involved getting the official city designation of about a 6-block corridor down a central street, right parallel to Main Street, Washington Street, designated as Buffalo's literary corridor. We hung banners of many of these writers who have lived and worked in Buffalo. From there, we partnered with the library and began developing with them Buffalo's first reading park. And that was just a little strip of land alongside Central Library in the heart of downtown that was derelict. It was just, not being used for anything really. And so we were able to turn that into a beautiful reading park. And from there, we have moved into developing or commissioning, actually, a sculpture which is going to honor one of the most important poets of the 20th century, Lucille Clifton. So this is going to be a beautiful sculpture that is housed at the reading park that will be a permanent thing and source of pride for Buffalo and really for everyone, right here in the heart of downtown. So I would say Lit City and our public art activities are designed to reach even beyond our regular, presenting to people who might not think to come to a poetry reading, or they might not think to have, one of their children or one of their students come to our writing center. This is a source of pride for everyone in the city, visitors to the city. It adds to the quality of life. It also preserves a very central green space for all of our enjoyment. Again, right at the nexus of the Michigan Street corridor, of downtown Central Library, Main Street. So we're so proud of being able to play a role in that. And again, it's involved numerous partners.
Yes, that's called placemaking, Laurie. That is a key success factor when you can advance your mission and, as you said, elevate your visibility by placemaking. Public art is part of placemaking, and I appreciate your mentioning the Michigan Street corridor. Some of our listeners may not know that is the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor. So there is a very intentional seeking of partnerships on the part of Just Buffalo Literary Center to partner with groups that are from diverse ethnic or all kinds of backgrounds.
Well, we've had a long, close association with Grassroots Gardens of Western New York as one of our key partners. And I should tell you we're often best known for our Babel author series,
yes,
where we bring 4 of the world's leading authors to Buffalo every year. And back it's about 5 years now, we realized it was the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Giving his speech here in Buffalo at Kleinhans Music Hall. And we were able to bring in Toni Morrison for that anniversary to be one of our Babel authors. And it was an unforgettable presentation. She was not doing too much of this kind of presenting anymore. So to have her here in Buffalo on the 50th anniversary, and that was the first year that we presented a new project called the Civil Rights Project.
Now tell them how that's spelled, because it was a play on words, which is so perfect for a literary organization. And I want to say that does bring us almost to our third topic, which is excellence. So for some people who might not have all of the local pride of Buffalo, we want to talk about world-class excellence, because Toni Morrison is known not just in Buffalo, but worldwide. So I want you to talk just a little bit more. You were starting to talk about Grassroots Gardens and who were some of the key players in this partnership.
So as part of the Civil Rights Project, one of the things we were able to do is open up the opportunity for 10 community partners to develop a project to tie in with the theme. So use literature, writing, reading in some way to tie into the theme of the Civil Rights Project. And a key idea with the project is, so here was Martin Luther King 50 years ago. Here's where we are now. Where do we want to be, a generation, 2, 3 from now? And what do we have to do now to get there? And how can the power of the literary arts play a role in that? So through those 10 community projects, Grassroots Gardens has done 2 years of those, where, they developed a unique project. It involved going along the Michigan Street corridor, doing lessons about gardening for children and tying into, gardening aspect and food aspect into Civil Rights Project. Mm-hmm. We had performing arts projects that tied into it. We had tours that tied into it. All kinds of things. We had plays, dramatic presentations. So, that has been just a tremendous project. And we're right in the midst of being ready to do it again.
I love that. So actually, what you found is that you have to share the wealth. Just Buffalo has become one of the, can I say, grown-up nonprofits in the area. You're looked up to. Laurie, your advice is sought after really by literary organizations and nonprofits all around the state. But you share the wealth. So you got a grant, and then you're able to subdivide it among these 10 partners.
When you brought up the issue of excellence, you reminded me that one of the ways we talk about our work is that we curate we educate, and we advocate.
Yes.
So I didn't even know what the word curate meant when I started at Just Buffalo. I was a nonprofit, person, cultural worker, or not even a cultural. I was a nonprofit worker that moved into the cultural space, and I learned, and now have such respect for our artistic staff of organizations that curate these programs. So they figure out how to present incredible, meaningful, powerful programs in the community using the power of, their individual art form. And often we collaborate, as you said, with other organizations to bring forward, what we both do. Then you have the education piece. We educate. So there are often educational components. Just Buffalo, our educational mission goes back just about to the beginning of the organization. About 5 years after we were founded, we started Writers in Education, sending writers into the schools. And we continued that for many years. And then in 2014, we were actually able to start our own writing center. So our on-site writing center based at our location at, in downtown Buffalo above the Book Art Center. But through COVID, as you said, now there are many hybrid programs. So we've had participants, from around the country, around the world, actually.
Awesome.
And so we have after-school programs for teens 12 to 18 a couple times a week. We have performance opportunities, all kinds of things. We're getting back into the schools now that we've made it this far through COVID. So very robust educational piece. And then the advocacy piece is so important. We believe so strongly in playing as much of a leadership role as we can in all the various advocacy efforts that are going on, whether it's locally. We're very involved in Greater Buffalo Cultural Alliance, very involved in advocacy at the city level. We also play a role in supporting statewide work, all of the literary centers throughout New York State that are supported by the Council on the Arts. We run a project that helps support them. And then we work with colleagues at the national level. So, whether it's, we have a really interesting partnership right now with Inside Out Literary Arts in Detroit, for example. It's called Writing Across the Rust Belt, and we were able to get some grant support to link our two programs and collaborate. We're in two key Rust Belt cities, Detroit and Buffalo. We both do, similar youth education programs. We felt we would have a lot to share by working, more closely together. And it's been absolutely incredible to have that opportunity. We've got about 2.5 more years on this project. I know right now we're planning a site visit for my team here in Buffalo to go to Detroit and spend some time with their colleagues on the ground, learn from them. So, these are all, I think, ways of trying to get that excellence piece, front and center in what we do.
And it's called sharing best practices. So that's the key success factor there. You have partners, and it's not just for the sake of dividing the money. It's for the sake of advancing the mission, often in very creative ways, and then also to learn best practices from each other. I know that you have also, Laurie, devoted a lot of personal time to mentoring other leaders of culturals around the state. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with other culturals and or other nonprofits around the state? Because one mark of excellence is when people look at you and they want to learn how you do what you do, and they want to learn how you do it so well. And if you weren't doing it so well, then people wouldn't have noticed. So I want to hear about how it is that you have shared your knowledge of how to achieve excellence, how to pursue excellence, how to be committed to excellence, because that's what everyone is trying to do when they say, oh, Laurie, can I have a conversation with you? Or would you be on this grant review committee? Or could you speak at our forum or our conference? So I'm saying that another key success factor that I want folks to take away is sharing best practices.
Well, we talk a lot at Just Buffalo about the idea of an intergenerational lattice. So in other words, our hands are joined across the generations. And I have been so fortunate to benefit from those ahead of me, our founder, our board members, people that my own mentors in nonprofit work. So having the benefit of learning so much, then, when it's my turn to be able to try to share, I'm so happy and privileged to be able to do it. And one of the ways we do that, as I mentioned, is through engaging in advocacy. And our statewide project is called Lit NYS. And so this involves interfacing with anywhere from 50 to 100 literary organizations, presses, reading series, any of the organizations that receive support from Council on the Arts that are in the literature discipline. And we have mentoring, re-grants, and an annual convening. And I think those convenings, conferences, opportunities to be with other colleagues are so valuable. But our eyes are also on the generation coming up next. We're giving a lot of focus and attention to how do we provide those opportunities for the next generation, the young leaders. We've developed a youth ambassador program out of our writing center. And part of it is about fostering their early career exploration, whether they want to develop their writing, maybe think about being a teaching artist, but maybe think about wanting to work in the nonprofit, space. Right. Some of them will want to be artists. Also, I got a bachelor's degree in English and really believe in the liberal arts background, and you can move in a lot of different directions. When you're a young person, you're thinking about what you want to do. So we want to help provide inspiration for work in the nonprofit space. I'm all about that.
Yes.
We want to provide mentoring opportunities. And then again, I'm going to come back to the intergenerational lattice, where this is the first time in history that we have 4, 5, sometimes even 6 generations involved with an organization at the same time. That has never been the case before. A few years ago, it really hit me that our youngest participant was probably, kindergarten, first grade, one of our education program students. And our oldest supporter was my grandmother, who turned 104 and a half.
Wow.
So that is the span of people involved in one organization, which is something really, really unique. It's a lot. It's what gives us a lot of our strength and longevity, I think, is having those complementary perspectives, having people that stay involved and interested over a period of time and share their knowledge and wisdom. And you've been a key part of that, helping us first as a board member and then coming in as a consultant. You led us through our strategic planning process. You're the one that got me over the hurdle of creating dashboards, which no one else was ever able to do. You somehow did that. So having that kind of commitment over time is really important. And again, coming back to top talent, being able to access the right people to help you in ways that you need.
You just have had such a diverse group of international, really, authors, prize-winning authors. How is it that you were able to even draw the funding, draw the credibility that they would accept the invitation to come to Buffalo? Just what was the commitment there to a world-class author program?
And it can take some time after your founder leaves to get back on solid ground. So we had to spend some time getting the footing underneath us again. That was about 5 years. But by then, we were able to draw on Just Buffalo's long history, of being in this space, doing this kind of work. And the organization was really ready. And we recognized that our community is a community that deserves to be, on these authors' tours. Buffalo would not have been a place that these authors would have come by themselves, but it should be, because we have an incredible community here of readers, writers, educators, people who care about reading and literature. So it was really the commitment of, our small team and our board and our artistic director that we were ready to start a significant series. We received initial funding. We made a proposal, and we knew we would need funding to get it started. And we were able to get that from the John R. O'Shea Foundation. They had a very strong, belief in it, and some other supporters. We thought if we could get maybe about 300 people to come out to, an author event, that would be absolutely incredible. And our first event drew 900 people.
Wow.
We sold out immediately. We were over at a venue called Babeville in Buffalo, sold out immediately. And within about a year and a half, we had to move to a larger space. We moved to Kleinhans Music Hall because we wanted to be able to, have more audience capacity. We didn't want students to not be able to come because there were no tickets available. So that just, again, spoke to the community support and interest and engagement. And as it continued, the authors share with their agent or they share with their colleagues the experience they had here. And we would hear over and over again from authors, I had no idea Buffalo was like that.
Yes.
They were wowed at our architecture, at our people, at the audience, one of the largest, warmest, most engaged audiences that they would find anywhere in the entire world. And so that played a key factor. I have to, again, credit the artistic staff and the artistic director, because what it takes to put even a 4-event series together is just mind-blowing.
Yes.
In terms of trying to make the logistics work and author availability and, budget and everything else.
That's right.
It's very, very, and the right balance. We want to hit different parts of the world and different types of authors. And so there's a lot with that. Now, think about it this way. Now, just over 15 years of doing this, 4 authors a year, if you've participated with Babel, you've had the chance to be in the company of more than 50 of the most important writers.
Yes. I remember one, and like 2 days before he was in the New York Times, and it was a little bit traumatic for us because it wasn't all positive press. But, that comes with being in a national and international spotlight. A lot of your life is under the magnifying glass. And we had a little conversation on the board. How is this going to affect us? Is this going to shed a negative light on the event itself? Which brings me to another key success factor that we all hope we don't have to do, but it really does happen in the life of every organization, which is crisis management. There has to be one organization or more, hopefully, in town that is willing to be a beacon of light and culture and information and education. And for me, growing up in Huntsville, that was Alabama A&M University. I was able to hear John Lewis at a book author talk. I heard Fannie Lou Hamer, and that's how I think I got my passion for civil rights as an 8-year-old sitting in the auditorium there at Alabama A&M. And here's a woman talking about why voting rights are so important, that she would be willing to go to jail, to be beaten, to be brutalized, and then come out and start all over again with the voting rights struggle. I know that other very famous people, Jesse Jackson, just so many, and that's because the university had something called a Lyceum series. They didn't want to be just the ivory tower. They wanted to bring the notable people, the civil rights fighters, even religious leaders, educators, but they wanted to bring them to the community. And so it was open to the entire community.
That resonates so strongly. And I love, you mentioning how young you were when that happened. That's where the seeds are planted. And I can give you another example. Colson Whitehead. We had to
tell his book. Now, some people may or may not know. He's an author who has won what, and he wrote what?
You're going to have to, look it up on your
Google it. Google
because,
it. That's right. There's so many.
Prolific.
Underground Railroad. Let's just start with that one. He's hugely known.
Harlem Shuffle.
Yes.
So we focused on the Underground Railroad. He was supposed to come right before COVID hit. So we, for the first time in the history of Babel, had to cancel a couple of events and reschedule. So we were finally able to have him come, which was amazing. And to see, especially the students, we were able to do a student event before the main evening event. And to see the students, we had a student introduce him, to have the students at our writing center, Breaking Barriers, boys and young men of color, leadership program participants came over. It was just amazing to be back together in person, to have, the author series resume, to have an author of this caliber here in our community in Buffalo, the ripple effect outward, from a visit like that. And now to be able to continue forward, as you said, we're extremely excited about Anthony Dorr and Isabel Wilkerson coming this spring. And again, because of COVID, we now do have a hybrid option, the option to watch it, remote. So people can go to justbuffalo.org and participate in Babel no matter where they are throughout the country.
Throughout the world. I know that we were sharing some of the analytics after the first one or two hybrid events, and you could see also, I think maybe people had an opportunity to put something in the chat, maybe where were they from, in Asia? I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah, I think we hit every continent except Antarctica.
Every continent.
So that's going to be one of our goals. That's
a good one. Hey, always reaching, always stretching. Well, I really appreciate that. And Laurie, I just appreciate your coming by to share with our audience how the Just Buffalo Literary Center has been able to envision, accelerate, and excel. But I can't leave before I talk a little bit about your very interesting and I would say unique career and career path. I don't think you would have seen yourself necessarily at Just Buffalo, let's say maybe as coming out of an English major degree. A lot of folks figure, maybe I'm going to be a writer, maybe I'll be a teacher. You went on, you had some time at Planned Parenthood. I know that you have an EMT license. So how is this that you've gone through all of these different career areas, and just share a couple of them? Because I want to encourage folks that whatever you're doing now, it's not where you're necessarily going to be in 5 or 10 years. And please keep your mind open and your hearts open, because opportunities will come. You just have to be open to them.
Well, my dad was a high school English teacher. My mom was a librarian, and my beloved granny was a nurse. And I think from them, my two loves have been literature and writing, and also medicine. So I studied English, became certified as an EMT, emergency medical technician, while I was in college. And I just did not know how I could put these two things together. So I first thought about medical writing. I thought maybe that was the way I would do it. And my first job was with the American Red Cross. It was recruiting and training volunteers. And I went from there into public relations with Red Cross. So that kind of got me closer to that medical writing piece. I got to tell the story of people who had been benefited from Red Cross services. From there, being in healthcare, I was able to make a move over to Planned Parenthood of Niagara County. I ran a medical clinic and worked my way up through that affiliate. Right in Niagara Falls, New York, was the first in the entire country to do full primary care. So who would have thought that I was running medical clinics, primary care clinics as an English major, but it was really on the job, learning and experience. I became the chief operating officer, spent 10 years there, and I went through a personal transformation. I left a marriage to come out as gay when I was 39, 40. And through that, I kind of felt like I could survive anything. And I heard that Just Buffalo, an organization that I knew from when I was a student, I had gone to those readings. I loved the organization. I heard they were in trouble, that they might even close. They had gone through a founder transition and they were in a tough situation. And I just had the sensation that I thought I could maybe give them what they needed, which was strong management skills. And I knew they had to stay in the community. We couldn't lose them. And I thought they could give me something I really needed, which was a chance to maybe work with a smaller, more grassroots, more creative organization. After 10 years in healthcare and managed care, I was really ready for that. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to be given the opportunity to become the executive director in 2002. And I was experienced in nonprofit, but I was not experienced in arts and culture. And I really relied on my colleagues. Buffalo Art Studio, Joanna Angie. If she hadn't been right next door, I don't know what I would have done. But a lot of support from the board, colleagues, and we just started rebuilding from the ground up. And I've just fallen more and more and more deeply in love with the nonprofit space. I think that the kinds of challenges that we are facing in the world are going to put even more of a spotlight on nonprofit organizations as being the ones best positioned to address and meet a lot of these challenges. We represent all size organizations. Our whole focus as nonprofits is on meeting real human needs. And so, we need people to be involved, the next generation, as board members, as committee members, as supporters, donors, staff members, the whole array of things is the thing that will keep our nonprofits vibrant. And I'm so glad you called out the fact that the key thing, honestly, is to follow your passion.
Yes.
That's been the key thing for me.
I appreciate journey. That. Follow your passion and build the team around yourself, or join a team that has a similar heart for the mission and is committed to excellence. Because the last thing you need is a passion and you're out there by yourself, or the rest of the people are ready for you to pull the whole load, because it always takes more than one person. So with that, Laurie, I want to thank you so much for all that you shared today. This has been an exciting conversation. We can do another one, because we really didn't scratch the surface of crisis management, and we are still coming out of and reeling from COVID. We are still in a state, I feel, of racial unrest in our country since 2020 and the murder of George Floyd. So, many organizations have had to look at how are we going to help society? How are we going to be leaders in our communities? And that's nonprofits, for-profits, educational institutions. But I think if we had any one takeaway today, it's, again, follow your passion. That will help you to envision where you want to go. Your passion is going to help fuel your mission and help you to accelerate the plan. You've got to have the fuel for the mission, which is your own, but also the people around you. And then you want to excel with that commitment to really reach your goals and help other people. I've read it many times, and I'm sure you have too, that many of the most successful people, and particularly change makers, are doing it because they have a calling to a purpose that is higher than themselves. And that's where the fuel for that passion comes from. So with that, we're going to sign off, say thanks everyone for listening. I'm Karen Stanley, your host of the podcast Envision, Accelerate, Excel. Thanks, Laurie.
Thanks so much, Karen.